The counterintuitive secret to less stress is actually more stress. Or another way of putting it is deliberate stress. Now, chances are if you click this video, you were probably thinking I meant emotional stress and anxiety and that sort of thing. And I do. However, to paint a picture, one of the most black and white examples of stress is lifting weights. Lifting weights stresses the body. But if you do it a moderate amount, it is going to yield beneficial results. It is going to yield results that enable your body to be more capable in situations that would otherwise be more stressful. So maybe you're a father and your 10-year-old kid who weighs like 100 pounds. I don't know what 10-year-old kids weigh. Maybe your 10-year-old kid weighs 100 pounds and they hurt themselves when you're on a walk and you have to carry them all the way home. If you don't lift weights regularly, that might be a task that makes it hard for you to get out of bed the next morning. But if you're somebody who regularly lifts weights, that's going to be no problem. You're going to put them on your shoulders. You're going to do like a fireman carry and walk them home. And you're not even going to feel like there was any extra weight on your shoulders because you're so used to lifting heavy weights. So that's an example where small intentional stress leads to beneficial results and leads to you being less stressed overall in life because you're more able to handle tasks when they come up, such as carrying your kid home or getting up 10 flights of stairs or whatever it is. So this is a process called hormesis. In layman's terms, hormesis is essentially just a stimulus of small amounts of stress that produce a beneficial result. Whereas if you introduce too much of that same stimulus, it would yield a damaging result. So this example of weightlifting is a perfect fit for the hormesis effect. If you lifted weights too much, too soon, too heavy, you're going to get damaging results rather than the stimulus causing your body to adapt in a way that it actually can recover and heal properly and become more strong. So that is one example of hormesis for your physical body. A few other examples for your physical body are using the sauna, right? It's exposure to heat, usually pretty high levels of heat. That would be damaging if there was too much exposure to that heat. But if you stay in there for like 10, 15 minutes, it's good for you. And same thing with cold water exposure. Now, these are all ways that the hormesis effect can be seen in the physical body, but there's also a way that you can use this principle of deliberate stress to aid your emotional body, so to speak, in your day-to-day life. To use this principle in a way where you will experience less stress and anxiousness. So how do you expose yourself to more stress, more deliberate stress, so that emotionally you won't be as stressed day to day? Well, when we think about emotional stress, what is the equivalent of like carrying our child home that happens with emotional stress? Well, that can take many forms. Maybe meeting deadlines for work, maybe having difficult conversations with loved ones, maybe having a difficult conversation with yourself, recognizing that like you're in a bit of a rough spot and you need some help or whatever it might be. Fundamentally, what all forms of emotional stress have in common is a form of discomfort and resistance to either the things that are happening around you or your internal world. Maybe there's emotions going on inside you that you're uncomfortable with, that you're kind of unwilling to sit with and process and face those emotions. Well, a form of deliberate emotional stress exposure that you can do, and I realized this when I first started doing this, is actually meditation. Meditation is to your mind what exercise is to your body. Because when you first start to meditate, especially in the beginning, when you're sitting there, there's this sense of boredom that comes up. There's this sense of like resistance, like you don't want to be sitting there. You're getting antsy. You're sort of unwilling to look at what's going on in your mind. You're finding it difficult to observe your thoughts. It might be kind of frustrating. It might seem a little bit stressful. But the more you do that, the more you develop the capacity to be aware of what is going on internally. You will have a lot more awareness. You will have a lot more of a capacity to sit with your emotions. You will have a lot more awareness over your emotions and a greater capacity to process those emotions. You will have a larger capacity to see something through because you practice sitting on that cushion for 20 minutes every day. You have a larger capacity to be uncomfortable to the point where it's not paralyzing. You can still get things done. You can still kind of push through when things feel a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. And not in a way that like breaks your own boundaries, but in a healthy way. So meditation is very important for exposing yourself to deliberate like emotional stress. Exercise is also good for deliberate emotional stress exposure. As a matter of fact, not just exercise, but the other two things I listed for the physical stressors as well, the sauna and the cold exposure. The reason these are also good for your mind and the stress that you'll deal with on an emotional level is because when you exercise, when you have a sauna, when you have a cold shower or you do a cold plunge, you're not just physically exposing yourself to stress. Because the mind and the body really, like, there's no line between them. They are one and the same. They're very holistic. So when your physical body is going through stress, your emotional body, your emotions are going to be reflective of that. So you're going to be dealing with stress on an emotional level too when you're in that cold plunge for 2 to 3 minutes. Your emotions are going to tell you to get out. You know, you're going to want to leave. You're going to want to close down because the water's so cold, and you're going to learn to relax and stay open. And I mean that like in a physical sense. And again, the physical and the emotional are really one and the same. I mean that in a physical sense that like you can literally feel the tension dissolving when you just like relax. But that is going to be reflected in your emotional state as well. Actually, I have a whole video on the single biggest benefit of cold showers. And I dive into this topic a lot, specifically for cold showers. So you can go check that video out. I'll put the link right over here and as well as in the description. So that's one of the reasons that I take cold showers every day, because sure, there's a lot of physical benefits, like, you know, you're more durable to the cold. It's good for your cardiovascular system. You kind of get like an internal massage on the veins and the arteries when you do deliberate cold exposure. But also the emotional strength that you get from that. That's the biggest benefit that I've found for myself. So not only does deliberately expressing yourself to physical stressors increase your ability to handle physical stress, but it also increases your ability to handle emotional stress. And things that would be stressful in the real world, like difficult conversations with loved ones, difficult decisions that you have to make for yourself. You know, maybe you want to quit your job, but there's risks involved in that, obviously. Maybe you want to try to start a business, but there's risks, obviously. These are things that might yield a stress response. And if you're somebody who does not deliberately expose themselves to stress in more healthy forms on a regular basis, the stress that comes from these things that come up in your day-to-day life is going to affect you a lot more. And that's when it really counts, right? Like, it's okay to be stressed from a cold shower. You're stressed and then you get out and you get warm again. But it's a lot worse, or it's a lot, I shouldn't say worse, I should say it's a lot more, it's going to affect your life a lot more when you're very stressed in situations that require you to make important decisions or have important conversations. Because stress affects you in those situations. It affects your ability to be effective and see clearly and have compassion for the other person that you're talking to and trying to express yourself towards. And it's very important to be able to remain calm in situations that would otherwise be very stressful. And deliberate stressors in a healthy amount, in a healthy dose, where they're going to yield these benefits, are the best way to do that. So the secret to less stress in your day-to-day life is actually more stress, just more deliberate stress. So I expose myself to these kind of stressors every single day. I take a cold shower every day. I meditate every day. As I exercise, I have my sauna, my little tent sauna that I use a few times a week. And those are all deliberate stress exposures that I use to make me more resilient, not only for my physical body, but to make my emotional body and my emotional capacity more resilient and more effective and more ready to handle the world in front of me on a day-to-day basis. And ever since I started doing all these things, I have seen great results. I've felt a lot more level-headed in tough situations that would otherwise cause a little bit more stress. Now, before I end, I will say that there's some situations where people are actually in the damaging curve of the Hormesis effect. A little bit of a stimulus of deliberate stress creates beneficial results, but we get to a point where more of that stimulus starts to produce damaging results. And some people are actually exposing themselves to too many things that are too stressful for them to handle. Now, these kind of people that are exposing themselves to a lot of stressors, their sympathetic nervous system is probably firing off like crazy, and they can't really seem to bring it down just because they don't have a second to recover. So I would say just take it down a notch. You definitely need some meditation in your life. If you don't have that already, that will help. And a lot of times these people, maybe this is you, maybe you resonate with this description here. You're kind of go, and you feel like you're short on time and you just got to get to the next thing. If this is you, I would recommend checking out my video, The Antidote to the Hurry Sickness. This is going to be very valuable. So I just wanted to mention that before I wrapped up. So that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found some value from this. And I hope you go ahead and start exposing yourself deliberately to more stress to handle the stress that comes up unexpectedly in your day-to-day life. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe to my channel for more content like this, and let me know what you thought in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Take care.